Welcome everybody. So hello, I think I know most of you. For those who we haven't met in person, I'm Jill Ashton. I serve as the Executive Director at the Commission on the Status of Women, the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. I'm gonna let Sheila introduce herself, and then I'm gonna give you a little bit of an explanation about what to expect today. Sheila, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great. So it's so good to see some of you. I'm hoping the rest might be willing to turn on your cameras as we go through this. Tried to wear my denim today, but I had to go, like waist up denim. It's so good to see all of you. It was fantastic to meet about 4 of the regional commissions last week. So to see so many more today, we've got almost everybody covered, and we had such good input last time. I am very fortunate that I got brought in to do some interim program coordination, particularly with you, the regional commissions, as well as working on the Girls Initiative, which we're excited to have the regionals join us on. So thank you. Good to meet you all tonight.
So as Sheila just shared, we're thrilled to have her on board, helping us in particular with the work around the Girls Initiative, and also to fill in for Sasha while she is taking a little bit of time for maternity leave. So folks may have heard from Sasha recently. In fact, I know you've heard from Sasha recently. So her baby has arrived, which is wonderful news, but arrived a little bit early. And so she is waiting for her baby to come home, have to spend a few more days in the hospital. And in the interim, she is continuing to work with us, which Sheila and I appreciate, because there's lots of stuff that she has been able to manage really, fantastically, but on her own. And so I'm so grateful that she is staying in touch and making sure that Sheila and I are going in the right direction. So she was planning on doing this call this afternoon, but had to attend to some health issues. And so Sheila and I said, no problem. We can absolutely take care of this meeting. My preference is to turn it over to Sheila so that she can chair the meeting or help guide us through the agenda. But that will make her job of taking notes a little bit challenging, which I understand. So we might tag team it. So I'm going to kind of try to step back so she can step up, which I think is the right choice. But also know that I'm going to be here, and I might be jumping in to either support her or offer some additional information, which she might not have, because I know it feels like all at the same time you just joined us and you've been with us forever. It's sort of COVID time. All right, so why don't we do this? Let's go around the room. I'll call your name and you can go ahead and introduce yourself. Does that sound okay? And then we'll jump into the agenda. Is that all right? Bye, folks. All right, great. So we'll start at the top of the list. I've got Karis.
Yep. Hi. I'm Karis North. I'm the chairman of the Plymouth County Commission on the Status of Women. We are one of the newer commissions in our second full year. I do this, and I'm a practicing lawyer, represent cities and towns, and it's been a really busy, crazy time for everybody.
Thank you. Michelle Gonzalez.
Michelle. Hi, I'm Michelle Gonzalez. I'm from the Handing County Commission.
Thank you so much for being with us. Michelle Keith.
Hi, Michelle Keith. I am from the Bristol County Commission.
Thank you. Tanisha. Tanisha. Tanisha, do you want to say hi? I know she hasn't been feeling well, so she might not want to say hi.
I think she might be chatting with us.
Yep. She did. She said hi via chat. Okay. We're thrilled to have you here listening in. This is great. If you need to share anything, we'll keep an eye on the chat so we can capture it. Amy.
Sorry, having trouble finding the mute button. Amy Ebbison.
Amy. There you go.
Oh, you're good. Go.
Amy Ebbison from the Worcester County Commission.
Beautiful. Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn Riley from the Plymouth County Commission.
Wonderful. Dana?
Hi, I'm Dana Rasso. I'm with the Berkshire County Commission, and my pronouns are she, her, her.
Thank you. And then John? I think that might be it. John?
Hey, everybody.
Okay. John?
We lost you, Don.
You're fuzzy. Just a quick hello. All right. Okay. So now we're going
All
to
right.
scoot on over to the agenda. And I'm going to go over the agenda very quickly and ask if there's anything that anyone wants to add, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Sheila, okay? All right.
Yep.
So we
Close the door.
are going to talk about a lot of things today. And so we are, again, going to cover a lot of ground, and I'm going to try to keep us moving. And thank you for your patience with me, but also if you have questions, make sure you speak up and ask them. We would need to talk about grants and what does that look like given the fact that we are all staying at home, or most of us, excuse me. Many of us are staying at home. And what does that mean in terms of being able to have events? And how should we perhaps rethink some of the grant funding? We'll talk about Advocacy Day, which is coming up in 2 weeks. Talk about the semi-annual convening of the regional commissions, which is supposed to come up in 2 weeks, but we want to talk with you about if there's interest in maybe postponing that, given how we are all probably zoomed out, or if you think we should definitely do it in 2 weeks. We want to talk about the Girls Initiative and some plans related to that, the Handbook, which needs an updating, and then hearing locations for the MCSW's hearings next year. We want to try to get that information soon so we can begin to plan for them. Terms that will be ending, so commissioners whose terms are up. Annual reports, which are due at the end of programmatic year. We'll talk about that process. And then finally, the FY21 calendar and FY 2020 materials. Is there anything that anyone would like to see added to the agenda? Okay. I'm seeing shaking of heads and I don't hear any voices. And so I think that that is the appropriate order and we will move through it accordingly. So at this point, let me turn it over to Sheila to chat with us about grants and what the situation is there. And again, I'll speak up if at any moment, Sheila, you need some additional help, support.
Thank you. So I have a master that I've been working on, and I was trying to ensure that I had a completed list, and it was pretty good, of every commission out of the 11 that had filed for their grants appropriately and had everything already put in. Most of you that are here today, your grants were in. If you have a question about whether or not you maybe had a grant application that didn't make it in, you should probably let us know sooner rather than later offline, and we can try to work you through that. When it came to last week's meeting, and I think we're really looking for input from all of you, what we were hearing a lot was, well, we had plans for this money and now we can't spend it the way we had planned. What are our options? So I think what we probably should hear from you all first is whether or not you've already made this transition and you know what you'd like to do with the money and just really need a path forward, or if you're looking for a little bit more support from us as far as what to do now that the original submission maybe isn't going to work the way you thought it would. If anybody wants to jump in, you can.
We did get one of the grants. We got a grant and we were going to use it for an event. And obviously we're not using it for an event. We had actually planned to have the event at the end of March. So we had already just kind of tabled that indefinitely and don't really have any thoughts about how to use it for things other. It was going to be like advertising, the space, the food, all of the associated costs. And so now I don't really have any thoughts about how we would use it or what to do with that, given it doesn't sound like we will be able to do events anytime real soon.
Not traditional events. I will share with you things that either Sasha brought up or some of the other regions brought up in last week's meeting. It was kind of two-sided. One was that sort of general, we thought you would probably use these for legislative breakfasts, things like that, and now it's time to get creative and maybe use the money to get materials for future events like tabling and outreach and postcards. One thing we need to know is that money will go away on June 30th. And I think the preference, and Jill will chime in if she needs to, the preference is to see the regional commissions use their money. What we heard from the other regional commissions, some of whom had already gone down this road a little farther, was that they really were looking towards possible printing postcards that would not necessarily be time sensitive, so something they could carry with them into the next fiscal year and still be able to use, leave them open-ended enough. We had another commission ask, and I just want to present this because I don't know that we have a complete answer yet, as to whether or not the money could be transferred over to a Zoom membership so that the regional commission can have its own updated and up-level Zoom capabilities in order to continue to hold meetings. And I think we still need to kind of formalize an answer on that. And then the third piece of this, we had commissions that were asking if it was appropriate, knowing the changes, if they wanted to go into their initial submission and make the changes themselves, and you absolutely can. You can go into that document still, Sasha indicated, and make the edits if you'd like. So I don't know if that, hopefully that starts to help. We would love to help see you through spending this money, I think is the final say on this agenda item, and then hear from you as far as questions you might have.
I love the idea of getting stuff for tabling and a tablecloth, cards, all that stuff. Is that something that we could do centrally, like put back to you guys for have a contract with printing and logos, or is that something we can have you guys do centrally?
Yeah, Jill's nodding, and I think we can. We were talking very briefly, we didn't get too far into it, about giving you access or some information from the state bid list. One of the things that Jill particularly indicated last meeting, and I get this, was that reimbursement is not the way to go. We'd like to just obviously place these orders and pay directly so that the state's not looking at, receipts from Target type thing. So yeah, hopefully we can go that route.
Yes, absolutely. Just affirming that. We understand that sometimes a reimbursement needs to be made and needs to happen. There's no other, there's no other way to make the expense, or to process the expense. But the strong preference is that if we could do it centrally, that would be fantastic. If we can't do it centrally, if an invoice is sent to the MCSW office and we attend to paying it, that's the best thing. I do love the idea about tabling materials. So yeah, let us know, and please let us know sooner rather than later. That's really important so that we can just be responsive to your needs and get these, these opportunities taken advantage of before the end of June, which is the end of the fiscal year.
I think just the final note on that timeline, and I'm not looking at it anymore, but the next meeting of the budget committee of the state commission, Jill, was, I think it's late. It's May 24th possibly, or it might be May 15th. And so it'd be great to be able to have a document ready for them to approve, send it over to the full commission as far as, yep, here's how each region wants to spend its grant dollars. Here's the approval that they needed. That is a change from the approval that they might have already had from the old deadlines, and we get to move forward before the fiscal year comes to a close. All right. If anybody wants to jump back into that, please feel free. If we don't hear any questions, I'm just going to keep moving. Next thing up is Advocacy Day. There's been an enormous amount of movement on this in the past 7 or 8 days. Seems like every hour there's something coming up. I probably would prefer, Jill, to hand this over to you since you're the one that had the document that they finally approved and the plan ahead.
Thank you. Yes, so the Advocacy Day has shifted and changed quite a bit. There's a number of reasons for that. The first and most important is we're not allowed to gather in physical space together as a group. But there's also shifts to the content of Advocacy Day because of what's happening in terms of the legislature and their work. And so what had been at the top of our priority list is not going to be the major focus of Advocacy Day, whereas in years past it would have been. Folks may have seen the news that the commission, the MCSW, just recently did a survey and a hearing on the impact of COVID-19, and we put together a report. We did a briefing for the legislators last Thursday, which went well. We're excited to share the report more broadly with members of our regional commission, as well as some of the supporters that the commission has, folks that have attended our hearings or participated in advocacy days in years past. So the way that we envision this particular advocacy day going is that it will be virtually, it will be virtual, excuse me. It will be about an hour long. We will have members of the MCSW speak and talk about the work of the commission and what we have been engaged in, but then spend a lot of time talking about the report. This will be followed by over the course of the week. So Advocacy Day is scheduled, will be on the 15th. And then what we're hoping to do is follow that up with a series of community meetings on the 14th, 15th, 18th, and 19th. So that's, again, a week from the event. And what we're hoping to do is to do a series of 5-ish community meetings, depending on what the interest is in terms of the regional commissions in partnering with us and what the staff's capacity is. Where we will invite legislators and folks who live in those communities to join us for a community conversation where we can talk about the work of the commissions, so both the state commission as well as the regional commissions, of what we're hearing and seeing in our communities, and what are some potential resources or responses. This, again, what we're hoping can happen is it can be done in partnership with folks that are in the communities, and that we would have for certain representatives from the MCSW on those calls to help guide the conversation, to take notes. The staff would primarily carry the burden of scheduling those, but if, again, folks from the regional commission are interested in partnering us, we want to do that, with recommendations from you in terms of when you think those would be best held within that week. And then a week beyond the 13th, which is May 20th, we would send out a final communication and say, thank you for everyone who participated. This is what we're hearing. This is what we know, and these are opportunities to engage in the work moving forward. So how does that sound? I'm very eager to take questions. Again, as Sheila said earlier, we recognize that this has been shifting and moving, and we're trying to do our best to respond to the moment and the challenges of the moment, as well as make sure that we're taking the opportunity to talk about the work of the commissions, the women's commissions, to talk about what's happening in our communities and what do we recommend as policies moving forward very quickly.
Just wondering what would be the role of the regional commissions in that format then? Like what would kind of be the ask to us?
Sure. So we really want, and so again, we know that the timeline here is tricky, right? Like one of the things that Sasha, she was concerned about was this, that short timeline, sort of an inability to have a lengthy conversation, or at least a conversation in the context of a commission meeting. That might not be possible for you and your group. And if that's the case, let us know and let's talk about what are potential solutions. But specifically to answer Amy's question, it was our hope that these conversations could be kind of co-chaired, if you will, so that there is, again, both the responsibility of scheduling as well as sort of convening can be managed by the MCSW, but that what we're talking about in terms of hosting and leading and directing the conversation would be something where we would be able to have folks that are working with the regional commissions, again, on the ground in the communities, who have the relationships with legislators. So kind of bare minimum, that's what we were hoping for. Again, tell us how that resonates with you. And then if there's a possibility where, there's a willingness to help us build participation in Advocacy Day or build participation in the community meetings, that would be very much welcomed as well. And then if you had ideas about what you would like to see, we're interested in hearing those. We know that, the perspective from one regional commission to the next might be different, and there might be different topics or issues or that come up, or that would come up in these meetings, and we want to make sure that we've got space for that.
Hi, Jill. This is Michelle Keith. I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So say we encourage people within our community to come to the Advocacy Day 1-hour session. What should those members of our community be expecting to bring to that session and or get from the session?
Thanks. That's a great question. So the 13th Advocacy Day virtual event, would be an opportunity to learn about the work of the MCSW, to learn about the COVID-19 report, which we recently released, but also to get advocacy tools. So part of what we've always done is to, in advance of the Advocacy Day event, is to send out materials that says, these are the things that we're thinking about and communicating about, and these are tools that you can use to communicate with your legislators. It's a little bit tricky right now because legislators are very, very, as you likely well know, are very focused on responding to their constituents. And so we want to be connecting with them in a way that's positive and productive and is offering us support, assistance, and information. It's different than, we are advocating on a particular bill, and we want them to, pass it, before the end of the session. It will look different. And so what we're hoping to do is to, again, kind of share that information and give people the tools that they might need in order to connect in productive ways. Both with legislators, but also... Go ahead.
If there's somebody attending the meeting and they want to talk a little bit more about a particular issue, we can encourage them to come to the meeting for that specific region. And then I was wondering, if we are going to do the regional meetings as a follow-up,
yep.
Should we be doing a survey? Should we be offering a survey for the region that was offered to collect that additional data? What is it that you're looking for us to gather and have as our outcome from those meetings?
Sure. So I probably wouldn't recommend a survey, just because I recently did a survey and it was hellish. I mean, on one hand, it was great because we got a lot of information and we learned a lot of the process. But it was hellish. Like, we had to kind of work very hard and very quickly. And I, in my position at this moment, wouldn't recommend that would be something that you would undertake. Because I'm very interested in having the regional commissions not overburdened in a way that feels unproductive. That said, if you, Michelle, think like, no, I really actually am very interested in knowing X, Y, and Z from the women in my community, and you want to put that together, let's talk offline about what I would think would be useful. But I think that the most important thing is that we think about those community meetings as ways to both share information and gather information, right? So we are looking to connect with legislators and say, this is what I'm hearing. These are resources I'm because I'm a member of a leader in the community, aware of, that I think other folks should be aware of. And we can kind of be problem solving together. And then again, all of that information from each of those individual community meetings can kind of come back to one place, and we can put it into a sort of a mini report that can be shared with all participants, both folks that participated on the Advocacy Day virtual event, as well as folks that participated in the community meetings.
So we are still going to be looking for people's concerns, but would we be repeating a little bit of the COVID-19 information that the commission wants folks to know? Is just basically, I'm looking, is there a certain format that you'd like us to follow? Because we can certainly take notes and give you guys feedback as to what people called and were concerned about, but it's that give and take. What do you want us to... Obviously, it would be giving our people in our region a chance to talk a little bit more than in the initial meeting with the main Massachusetts Commission.
Yep.
But I think we need to be able to give them something too. So maybe a talking point of some, some rehashing of what you want them to know. It would be, I think, helpful to have some sort of format, a suggested format. Obviously, commissioners can do what they'd like and handle their meetings the way they would like, but it's nice to have a roadmap.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't want it to get out of hand. That would be something. And what I mean by out of hand is like, it's not a public hearing, right? Where we're like just sort of hearing
Exactly.
on a range of topics. Rather, instead, what we want to do is, again, share information in our report. The way that the report is structured is into certain categories. So health and wellness, economic impact, essential workers. There's 5 different categories. And so what we're hoping to do is say that, listen, these are areas of concern or need of immediate attention, and these are some things that we're recommending, and to kind of use that as a frame for our conversations. But we do know things are going to come up, and that's okay as well. And we do know, and I've seen a lot of this, and I really appreciate it, in meetings that I'm having with partners, where people will take 10 minutes and they'll share. They'll say, like, this is the work that I'm doing. These are resources that are available. I want everyone to be able to have that information. The last thing that I'll say before I wrap up is that I hear you in what you're looking for is, like, what's the agenda for those community meetings? What do we need to know going in? And how do we want to guide the conversation? That is certainly something that we're developing at this time, and we'll make available to the folks that are going to be leading those discussions.
Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you for those questions. They were very helpful. Any other questions about Advocacy Day before we move on to other agenda items? Okay, so hearing none, I'm going to turn it back to Sheila for go back to our agenda.
Thank you very much. So the next thing on the agenda is regional convening, and I'll kind of make a long story short, and then we can have a discussion about it, which is that the recommendation at this point is that typically the regional convening would have occurred right after Advocacy Day. Would have been an in-person event that everybody gets together. Obviously not possible. At this point, it looks as if the general recommendation has been to move it to much later this summer. We would love some feedback on this. Comments are very welcome.
It's always nice to get together in person. This is Karis, and I think everybody is planning things for the summer, so I think that's going to be really complicated and challenging. But you know, the sooner you put a pin in a date, the sooner everybody can plan around it. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that point. But yeah, I would love to do it. And I think you should also think about doing it, you know, virtually, which might make it possible for more people to attend. It also is a larger group to manage, and so that gets challenging too. So.
Yeah, this is Dana. I know that for our commissioners and in Berkshire County in general, it is a challenge for us to get to in-person meetings, just because so many folks on the commission are kind of just working so all the time, and are like attorneys or social workers or like first response type of folks. So I like the idea very much of a regional convening, even though I do agree that I much prefer in-person meetings. Like, I barely remember them anymore, but I do think that it would be easier for us to have a virtual meeting, just knowing what I know about our folks.
I agree with my colleagues. I don't think by the end of the summer we're even really going to, I think it's pretty unlikely we're going to be green lighted for in-person gatherings of more than a few people, even by the end of the summer, in all honesty. And, you know, I'm kind of in the public health sphere, so I'm not really that optimistic that in-person's something that's going to take place. So I do think, you know, as other folks have said, doing something virtually can really get people there that wouldn't get there otherwise, because it's a 2-hour drive, or, you know, they have all these other things going on. So it's worth it. I think, you know, COVID's making us try things we probably wouldn't otherwise do. I don't think we'd ever all say, yeah, let's do a virtual gathering. But since it's the situation we're in, it's certainly worth seeing what kind of response we get. And, you know, if there's 10 people, yay for those 10 people. And if we have more, you know, I do think I have not figured out great ways to manage large groups on an online platform other than just having them in the background listening. But, you know, it's still working on it and trying to figure it out. And I think lots of people are in the same boat of how do I use these platforms in the most effective way. So maybe if that's the way we, you know, kind of envision it, we can more work on thinking about how will we really engage people on a virtual platform instead of like, when are we going to do a real meeting? That's my thought.
Amy, this is Michelle. I agree with you that we're gonna be lucky if we can get together by next March, because we're not, my husband's a physician, my older son works in mental health, and they've been, you know, grappling with these issues. And until we have that vaccine, you know, we are just not gonna be able to come together. And I am really impressed. I've got to tell you, the commission has done a fantastic job to be able to have Advocacy Day as a virtual day, be able to have the material out there, to be totally on it. You guys are doing an incredibly rocking job, and I'm really proud of the commission, and I think you're leading the way.
Well, thank you everyone for those really lovely comments. So just to be clear, it seems what I am hearing is that folks are fine with postponing slightly the convening, which typically happens in May in alignment with Advocacy Day. And you're also excited or optimistic or silver lining feeling about, if we can't get together, it might be exciting to think about what's possible with these virtual platforms. I mean, for example, we were really impressed when we had our virtual public hearing. We had to do that because we couldn't be in person, but it was so very well attended that it made us kind of rethink, you know, what does that mean in terms of access, right? Like usually we're very pleased if we get 30 or 40 people to come out, and you know, this virtual public hearing had more than 100. And so that's exciting, right? So I hope I'm hearing everyone correctly that yes, you're okay with us postponing it, and you're also very much okay with us doing it virtually, and that seems like what's going to likely have to happen given what we're hearing from public health officials.
Yes, and I would suggest as just a further piece is if you want to be able to do breakout groups. I've done some mediation where we've had a couple of different windows going on. It's been through WebEx. I'm not sure what GoToMeeting's ability is, but that's something I think, you know, is going to be technology driven that you might want to think about.
We have been thinking about that, and it definitely is a possibility where we have, you know, like a group of 50, and then we break out into smaller groups, and then we come back to each other. So thank you very much, Karis, for noting that capacity. Thank you. All right, so fantastic discussion. Thank you, folks. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Girls. Oh, girls. Okay, definitely I'm turning this one over to Sheila. She's been doing a fantastic job on this particular initiative, and I'm really excited for her to share that news.
Just a note, I'm trying to watch chat as well. I apologize that we had to lose Carolyn. She had a faculty meeting to go to, which just goes to show how much is going on with online learning. Faculty meeting at 3:30. And Tanisha, I'm looking at your comment as well for virtual, planning on keeping that going. Or to set it up as a virtual meeting where at least everybody knows it's coming and has a date in mind. So that's great. Thank you so much. Jill, did you set it up? I did ask people to share my screen. I am going to share with you an executive summary. Here we go. And yes, I keep a lot of things on my desktop. I hear about it all the time from my kids. Let me know if you can't read it. What I would like to go through with you, just because this is the most concise piece of data we have, but I have a lot more I can share with you, this is what we have so far for the girls initiative. You can see purpose is left blank. That's only because there's a broader toolkit document that lists a broader purpose, and I will include that for you in an entire list of documents later. You can see we are trying to ensure that our partner agencies and the regional commissions particularly, and in addition to just sort of thinking through, and I know as regions we think about this all the time, ensuring that all of our communities are included, 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, to try to see if we can get as many of those communities, girls involved, so that we're not seeing pockets that are, for whatever reason, left out. We're going to try to keep that being a priority. We do have a tentative calendar, and I'm actually going to switch screens for a second. Let's see if I have the right calendar. Hold on. We do have a tentative calendar in place, which I will share with you in 1 second. So I'll make sure I have the right one. That calendar actually references a little bit what you were just talking about relative to Advocacy Day and the regional events for Advocacy Day. So let me pull up that calendar. And I will go back to the planning document for in a second, but I did want to show this to you. Obviously, time is passing quickly. Friday is May 1st. We were trying to take a look at all the things that were going on and not competing within the commission on events that we knew were already coming up. So we know we've got the MCSW full commission meeting tomorrow, which hopefully will be the place where we're jumping off on everything that has gone through so much planning in the various committee stages. What we are looking at for girls are 2 weeks, 3 days each within those 2 weeks of listening session events. There was a lot of discussion about multiple breakouts, whether it was by age, whether it was by special event, whether it was by special topic. The ad hoc committee decided to pare that down quite a bit. They decided to stick mostly with age groups, which seems to be the situation where we know a conversation will change dramatically if it's among 13-year-olds versus kids who have graduated from high school or college. So what we're going to do in that first week, starting on the 19th, again, this has been approved as to form with some changes. We will open up these girls' status events with middle and high school discussion groups. The next day, the 20th, we would go to post-high school and college. And that Thursday, to close out that week, we would try to really take a stab at addressing the special groups, the graduating years, who are missing out on so many special events that they otherwise would have had and are really being affected more dramatically in some cases because of it. The next week, and this is where you come in, we go on to the partner agencies, who of course were initially going to be the agencies that would have hosted our in-person events, and that's no longer the case. But because they have such active groups already, we know that they have girls who want to be heard. We're hoping that reaching out to them, those partner agencies will still be interested with support in hosting their own listening sessions where the leadership and the moderation would be coming out of their agencies. And then we go to you. So on the 27th of May, that would be the date set aside for the regionals. If you wish to take on a regional specific listening session geared directly towards your girl constituents. I do not have a time set up for this. We do have some questions surrounding whether or not you'd like to use your own platform that you've been using, if that's the case within your region. Because we saw last week that several of the regions were already hosting meetings, whether somebody already had a Zoom account or a GoToMeeting, or if you'd like to use the CSW's account. If that's the case, then obviously we're going to have to work out a schedule to make sure everybody has time to share. To that end, I will be sending out kind of Eventbrite. This is what it's going, oh, that's not the right one, but that one's for the virtual community events. But I will be sending out an Eventbrite, and what we'll do is try to have you choose from your session times available to you on, ideally, May 27th, the best times that are there for your area, for your commission. Now, having us hand you this date is great, but we know you're going to need a lot of other things. We're going to be providing you, and we are now back to this summary document. But what we are hoping to provide you with, now that you've got a date in mind for a regional girls listening session for you, is a toolkit that will take you through a conversation guide. We do know that coming out of the February questionnaires that there were very specific topics, you can see them here, that really jumped out, both from the provider's perspective as well as from the girls. And, to the point, I think particularly of Michelle, who was with us last week as well, we know that some of these issues either have been exacerbated by COVID or maybe have taken a back burner. So these really are going to, instead of being a topic of conversation for a particular day, these will turn into conversation prompts. It's entirely possible that some of these things will come up as part of the larger conversation, but we're not hanging our hats and putting a pin and saying, well, today we're going to talk about domestic violence. If it comes up as part of the listening session on a given day within a given group, we understand why it might. Going along with that, another thing that we need to be able to give to you is a resource guide. There is conversation going on about how to assist with girls who bring up sensitive topics. We also have a conversation going on about what we need to do in order to grant permissions for girls to speak who are under the age of 18. To that end, we actually reached out to Boston Globe, who has been holding weekly sessions specific for school-related issues when it comes to kids. They seem to be running their events, which actually are on Zoom, a little bit differently than what we envisioned, but they did agree to talk to us. So hopefully I'm going to be able to talk to that editor tomorrow or Friday and get a little bit of feedback on what those permissions need to look like. We will be able to provide you to that end with conversation guides. Hopefully these conversations will be mostly girl-led. The commissioners are looking forward to being moderators, certainly in your case for your regional piece, to have a regional moderator there, an adult in the room, so to speak, is going to be a very beneficial thing. In terms of marketing, you're looking at the list right here. We've had a couple of commissioners suggest, and we actually have a regional commissioner who's quite well involved, that we give a shot at reaching out to Maskey in particular to see if the superintendents would get on board with helping us share this information across their districts. And I know I'm going fast, and I'm hoping that you're going to give me a lot of questions at the end of this, but I'm just going to push my way through to the end. As you know, there was supposed to have been a summit at the end of these listening sessions to bring all these girls together and have an event where there would be some sort of breaking of bread, and that's not something we're going to be able to do. There was early discussion of changing it to something else. That included the ability for any girls who had participated or who wished to participate of submitting a video or a still photo or a piece of art or music, and that would be compiled into something. I know that program and planning right now has some concern about us over extending ourselves, so we'll see where that ends up. It's not necessarily part of the Girls Initiative event anymore, so to speak. It would be maybe an added bonus at this point. There was also talk of gifts to girls. That has morphed from everything from t-shirts over to some sort of pin that would have been designed to a bag with a logo on it. That actually turned very recently into electronic gift cards, which do not need to be mailed and do not need to be touched by anyone. There was also some thought that many of the girls who participate might well need to use them for things like food. So we are doing some research into bulk purchasing of gift cards, which is an odd thing for a municipality or for a state to purchase. We have a few questions we need to answer about how we can do that, but that seems to be the direction that the commission is headed, that the committee is headed when it comes to the gifts for the girls who are participating. Reporting. We've had so much good feedback on the COVID-19 report that the goal here is certainly to try to have something similar come out of this. To that end, we have a Google form, a questionnaire essentially, that goes along with the girls' listening sessions. The girls might be filling that out while they're in on the listening session with you. They might be filling it out afterwards. Either way, the data that we get submitted will allow us to come up with a report that at least attempts to reach the heights that the COVID report did in terms of data relative to girls' struggles within the COVID crisis and beyond. We have a working name. It is MA Girls, What's Your Status? As you know, Mel in particular has really upped our Twitter our Twitter presence. And so we are working on hashtags for that as well, which are Girl Status MA, as well as MCSW Girl Status. Hopefully they'll use them both. This whole coronication thing seems to be old, and we're probably just going to get rid of it. Nobody's really talking about it. So that is your summary. That was a lot of information. Can't wait to hear from you. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. we have a set of documents. Right now, they're still working, but we can send them to you, particularly as they pertain to that regional day. And we would love to hear from you as far as what you think about your regional commission being able to take something like this on, and what kind of tools you're looking at getting from us so that we can make this process as easy as possible for you.
I'll jump in. We had a girls' hearing planned for the end of March that got canceled, 2 weeks, 10 days before when everything got shut down. And then we had a legislative tea scheduled for April. So all our events have been, cut off. I think that my commission, the Plymouth County Commission, is interested in doing something. We are meeting on May 9th. So the timing is right for us to be able to take a vote to do one of these.
Karis, we're losing you.
I've got Karis.
It's Sheila. I think you're fading out. In any event, we have a meeting on May 9th. I'm more than happy to present this to my sister commissioners, ask for a vote. And I think that for a regional convening, a Plymouth County event on May 27th, and we'll try to pull it off. Absolutely. I think probably where we need the most help is with marketing. So everything, and I'll have to figure out if we can have some girls to lead it, but I'm sure we have enough resources to find the right girls. So happy to assist. I have to jump off shortly for a 4 o'clock call, but I just want to let you know I'm willing to bet that we would like to do it because we have a lot of pent up energy.
Sorry.
I don't know if this is a good time to jump in. Can you hear me? It's Dawn from Hampton County. Sheila, congratulations. It's the amazing work that you've done.
Yep.
I am, like all of you, up to my eyeballs in regular work. And so I'm going to do my very best to support our commission. I run an early ed agency, and although our classrooms are closed, we're doing remote learning for our school age kids, and my staff are a little burnt, and so am I. So we are not meeting as a commission till May 14th. I don't think our commission would be opposed to doing something on the 27th. I'm a little bit nervous about capacity for people to do more than what they're doing. Some folks have more time, and then some folks have very little time. So I just wanted to be brutally honest that I love it. I think you've done amazing work, and I think we can do something. I just don't want to overpromise. I know I'm very compromised for time, but we'll do our best.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
This is Dana in Berkshire County. So we are in a similar position in that our commission doesn't meet again until the 12th, and I've candidly, I've been having a really hard time getting our other commissions, the other commissioners to respond in a timely way to emails about the stuff that we're working on. And I appreciate that it's not because they don't care. It's just that they're all extremely taxed and busy. And I really am excited about this. But I do want to ask for clarity, and I apologize if this is like something I should already know the answer to, but I wasn't quite sure whether the MCSW is still partnering with local organizations, and the second part of that question is I'm not clear based on what you said whether a state commissioner is going to be helping to kind of moderate and shepherd the conversation, or if it's going to fall to a member of the county commission to do that for the regional?
That is a very good question, Dana. And it's one of those things that has changed so often since I started doing this. I think there were thoughts of, in an ideal situation, the conversations being as girl-led and driven as possible. But of course, you can't do these without an adult in the room. At some point last week, there were ideas swirling that you could get someone with a professional status, whether it be in the health field, in the mental health field, in the financial field, to run very specific sessions that were geared towards specific topics to deal, that would go along with that professional. That got also pushed aside. Where the ad hoc committee is right now is to try to ensure that any commissioner that would like to have a role essentially be allowed to be a moderator within one of these meetings. Obviously, they're going to be given a script, some prompts, but there is no expectation, I think at this point, and I hope I'm not overstating, that the commissioners would be asked to be providing professional feedback. They're being asked to be the listener in the room. So to your question about the regionals, if you would like, and if you think you have a commissioner that would like to be a moderator or be in a position where either they are moderating or helping to lead, great. If you feel that that's an area where you would need support, you could just let us know that and we can see what we can do for you. I think certainly the ideal would be that a regional commission could take it on, but again, like to your point, we recognize A, how short a turnaround this is, B, how full everyone's plates already are in many cases, and C, that even given every bit of a tool you might have, it might still be, one thing too many, and it's a little hard to take it on. I think with your meeting on the 12th, with Dawn's on the 14th, if I send you documentation in advance that your commissioners have time to review prior to the meeting, and that's on me, to make sure that they've got a handle when they finally get to your meeting, that they sort of sense and know what's ahead for them in that event in 2 weeks, then hopefully that'll give you a better shot at being able to support it.
Yes, that sounds fabulous to have it in advance. And the other question I had was whether I know that for our regional meeting, we were talking to a couple of organizations, Flying Cloud and Shirley Edgerton's organization. The acronym is escaping me. Are they going to be involved at all? Because I do know that Shirley's organization has been having really well-attended Zoom meetings for teenagers already because of the coronavirus. So
yeah,
just
so
asking.
I apologize. You brought that up and I didn't really get back to it. I think the one thing so far in my time here that I haven't done yet is reach out to the partner agencies that prior to this had really already committed to having a quite huge role in this event. I have a list of the partner agencies based on the ones that were involved in the February questionnaire, and I know it's not complete. So your point, yes, we are going to reach out to them. And it may be, particularly for Berkshire, which I saw from the list, they were well represented. It may be that your day for a regional girls hearing on the 27th might be taken. You could have your spot taken by one of the local nonprofits that already have a strong role and had a strong plan to move ahead with it, and that would be fine.
And would the participants still have to fill out the survey?
Nobody's going to have to fill out this survey. I'll send it to you. It's really going to be it's a choice. It's a situation of choice. Yep.
I mean, I figured it wasn't like compulsory or anything, but I just wanted to check in on that. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate your clarity on that.
Sheila and Jill, this is Michelle Keith. We will definitely do something. I do know from our commissioners that we do meet later in the day. So I'm hoping maybe for a 6 p.m.-ish type of slot. I don't know if that's something that you're offering. But between Stephanie, my co-chair, and I, we will make sure that it happens. And Stephanie is a social worker, so this is right up her alley. I know she'll love it.
Wonderful. It's good to hear. Thank you. Anything else on girls? If not, we'll move. We're going to press on here on our agenda. Okay, so the next thing, super fun, the Regional Commission Handbook. There is no question that though the handbook needs to be updated, it's my understanding that since 2018, some things have come up that people have seen really need to be updated. The time sensitivity of it is not the same as some of our bigger events. I know in the meeting last week, Sasha indicated that she would be sending out the handbook to each of the regions and access to it so that you get a first look. And that the next step will be to form an ad hoc committee. So if any of you are, twiddling your thumbs and you're at home, nothing to do, and you'd like to be on the Handbook Ad Hoc Review Committee, that is an opportunity that is available to you. Jill, is there anything to add to that?
No, I mean, thank you very much for that. I think the thing that is important is we really appreciate any feedback that you can give us so that we're learning together and improving the work together. So if you are interested in being part of the committee, that would be fantastic, and we'd be so thrilled to have you. If you're only able to say, you know what, I don't have much time, but this particular thing has been a question, or I would recommend that it be resolved or addressed, that would be fantastic. Anything that you're able to do is going to be great, and if you are tapped, we hear you and we understand. We just want to make sure that we have the opportunity to capture your good perspective.
All right, so the last 4 things really on the agenda are pretty heavy business items, just sort of a lot of paperwork, but we do need to power through them. So the hearing location recommendations were initially due on March 31st. As you can imagine, there would not be any 2021 hearing locations set for quite some time until the state mandated recommendations are released for us as far as us coming out of our pandemic situation. I think a lot of you already got those in. However, there is still time if you have communities within your region that you feel would be a good candidate for hosting a hearing in the coming fiscal year. We would love to still see those. Not much on that topic other than that. In terms of your vacancies, in some cases, your regions have terms that are ending at the end of this calendar year. And one of the things that I think this is probably the one place where I think Sasha would have liked to have been here. She has committed to ensuring that she sends you out for each of your regional commissions, the list of sister commissioners whose terms are up, who may be up for reappointment, and if they are, what that process is. And then secondarily to that, the process of recommendation for new members for vacancies that you might have, either their existing vacancies or those coming up. I think we just got one today, Jill, right? A good recommendation for a commissioner. So that process is going to be moving forward. So that's 2 things already. That's the hearing locations and the terms. Does anybody have any questions about those?
I have a question about, this is Dana in Berkshire County. I have a question about whether or not the folks who because we have a couple of empty spaces right now on our commission, and I know that we submitted 2 people's names to the state commission to have them evaluate them. And I wasn't sure what the status of those people's evaluations was.
Okay. And Jill, I don't know either, actually.
No, I don't know either. Dana, do you have those names off the top of your head that I can?
It's okay. Ordinarily, I'm trying to remember. I don't. I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Don't worry about it.
I think one is Elisa Costa, and I can't remember the other person.
Costa rings a bell, actually. Don't worry about it. I will check in with Sasha. She's got a pretty good system for tracking all this. My understanding, and again, I am only peripherally connected to the work that she's been managing so exquisitely, is that the plan was to take up for consideration appointments, or begin to review appointments this month. So let me check in with her and have her communicate to you what is the exact status of those two in particular, and what's the timeline.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Dana, just for my notes, did you just say these are existing vacancies that you have?
Yes, we have 3 existing vacancies.
Okay.
And we recommended 2 people, and are trying to actively recruit a 3rd person.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to power through this. We've hit our hour mark just about right here. So heading down to the last 2 items on the agenda, annual reports. My most fun thing, and just to give you all a little background, I am a longtime select board member in my town, and we have the same process going on, and nobody loves it. But your annual reports, Sasha had initially sent out sort of we'd really like them by this, but technically they're due June 1st. The more you can get us by June 1st relative to your annual report, the better off we'll be. My guess is once quarantine is lifted and real life starts back up again, that we will all be very happy to have these items under our belts and finished and done with and packed away. So any support you need relative to what your annual report needs to look like, needs to include, if you need to have a reminder of access to what your 2018 report looked like, we can send you the link for that. Anything at all, please let us know. I can certainly imagine that all of us want to get through these events in May, Advocacy Day and Girls Initiative, prior to really doing a deep dive into the annual reports. But I just want to kind of give you that reminder and let you know that we can help you out with that. To go along with it, in addition to the annual reports, we also need your 2021 calendar of meetings. At this point, obviously, we recognize that it's entirely possible that at least the beginning of FY 2021, those meetings will be virtual. You can note that on your calendar if you wish. If you have events that you are contemplating rescheduling, you can certainly note those down as well. And then the final thing to go along with that as part of your end of year materials is your FY 2020 agendas and minutes. Hopefully these are readily available in some way, shape, or form. And again, any help you need in order to collate them, get them together, figure out what's missing. We're going to try to get those as complete as possible. And again, with an eye towards, it's just one of those things that we all need to do it, and we'll probably all feel better about it once it's done. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what you need from us to help you through that. Even if the pieces start coming in dribs and drabs, we'll kind of keep them all collected together and get you to a point where your regional commission has a completed packet for the end of FY20. And that's all we've got. Is there any other business? Are there any questions about those 2 items? The fun stuff? No? Thank you all so much for joining us. Michelle, for joining us twice. Kind of thank you. She's been with us both times. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So before we adjourn, I just want to confirm, at least on my end, the items that we're going to get out to you as soon as we can are girl-related items. And I'm kind of warning people as I send them out that these documents are works in progress to a point. And we are, please, I welcome any comments you might have. And I just want to say, and Michelle, you would remember this because shame on me, I don't remember who said it. One of the things that got referenced, and I'll put this back up on the screen just once, just because it's well worth it, was the hashtag for the girls event, which, hold on, I'm going to share this one last time. Yeah, no, it's well worth it because I'll never ever forget it. So as you can see at the bottom, the working tagline is here, Girl Status MA. Okay, before last week's meeting, it was this. It was MA girl status. And one of the regional commissioners said, you know, you're one letter off from MAGA. I can't not see that anymore. So as you can imagine, we changed it.
Having been in hour-long meetings discussing a hashtag for something, I completely sympathize and appreciate hearing about that.
Well, where I was headed with that was I never saw it. How, of course, now I can't not see it. But if you see something in what I send you as far as this girls packet and you say, you know, you really, this needs to change, please let me know. I really appreciate all your feedback so far. And I am all set. Is there anything else, Jill?
No, this has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate everyone's time. As Sheila said, thank you for allowing me to reiterate. Please reach out to us. Let us know if there's things that either you need from us, support that you need from us, questions that you have, ways that you think that we can improve, either our materials or our communications, the ways that we're working with you. All of that feedback is very much appreciated. We'll look forward to being in touch.
Have a good night, everyone.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Bye.